Heard that on the weekend morning show on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM and 990 AM. The time right now is 8:50, and if you're driving around or walking around this morning or throughout today, you might see big lineups at comic book stores. It's Free Comic Book Day. But what exactly does that mean, and why have graphic novels become so popular in the past 10 years? Well, Donovan Yaciuk is cuckoo for comics, and he's even created his own and joins me this morning. Good morning, Donovan.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm not bad. I can't help but be in a good mood with the sun out like it is today, and with something as amazing as Free Comic Book Day. But first of all, tell me about buying your first comic book.
Comics are huge for me. A lot of people grow out of them as they get older, which is too bad. That seems to be a North American thing. And in Europe, in Japan, people read them straight on into adulthood. So I really hope that trend sort of catches on here. I got my first book when I was probably 5 or 6.
Okay.
We're talking quite a few years ago now. And it was Spider-Woman #1, which is not a classic by any stretch of the imagination. You wouldn't see it in a museum or anything. But, it was just this fantastic moment. My mom got it for me. We were driving back from somewhere, and it was already nighttime. And so probably because no one buckled their kids in the 70s, right, to keep me from running around in the back seat. She threw this comic book back there. And I remember it was after night, and it just hooked me in. And so we're driving home, and I could only read it because it was night. Like every 4 seconds, I'd get a burst of street light and would just take in as much as I could, and then 10 seconds of darkness. So it was this beautiful moment where you could only read in little bits, and that mystery just helped hook me. Like I say, the comic book alone, if anyone picks it up, it's not anything that's going to knock your socks off. But at 5, 6 years old, when you get a little taste of that, and there's sort of that just that odd circumstance around it where, I could only get a small taste at a time, and it totally hooked me in.
It's funny how you describe that, the little bursts of light that you get the opportunity to read. And I think we've all been through that, trying to read in the car at night while your parents are driving you home and you're a kid, and you're just like, okay, I get 4 lines here, I get 4 lines there. So what is it that you love about comics that has kept you hooked on them so far?
And that's just it. I'm really lucky in a way. Some people go through life and not find anything to be passionate about, and to find that at 5, a lot of people lose that stuff growing up, and I never did. And what it is for me is, I've always loved reading books. It's straight text, and you make pictures in your head. Art is pictures, and you can sort of, but comics are this beautiful sort of meld of pictures and words, and when they're done right, each of them, takes sort of an equal share of the storytelling load. And there's a real magic that happens there when some people, who aren't tuned into that will just read the words of a comic and breeze through.
Right.
But if you sort of slow yourself down, boy, it sounds like I'm teaching a yoga class or something. If you slow yourself down and really let yourself get absorbed by, that sort of mix of pictures and words, it's fantastic. And it opens up worlds and imaginations that I just think straight prose can't. And the TV definitely doesn't.
I often think that it's the graphics on these comics or graphic novels and the little sound effects that are added in there that enable you to read a comic more than once, because you may have read the text already, but going through it again and discovering more in that actual in the picture that's in the illustration.
That's right.
Stuff that's going on in the background and little parts of conversations that you may have not noticed the first time through.
That's right. When it's done right, it's just a spectacular medium.
So why do you think we've seen this rebirth of comic culture over the past 10 years or so?
It's strange to say. Luckily, I think we can blame a lot of it on the fact that Hollywood's run out of ideas, right? And has started making these comic book movies. Yeah, hit or miss some of them. Some of them are atrocious. But the recent Marvel ones for me are just so much fun as movies. They're just adventure blockbusters that are done reasonably well, and don't pander. They kind of it's a guy in spandex, and to treat that seriously and make people accept that's really good. So that's really helped. But comics have sort of, since the mid-'80s, really have kind of grown away. There used to be what was called the Comics Code, which took out all knives, everything but smoking, which is really strange, right?
Yeah.
So And really, they sort of became seen as just a kid's medium because of that. And, Watchmen came out in '86, hugely influential series that, if you want to look at a really well done book where the art and text, really flow together well, that's sort of the pinnacle. And it still sells. It's still in the top 10 list every month for comic book sales. Like, it's just huge. But, that kind of broke the mold of typical superheroes and spandex stuff.
Right.
And it's grown from there. And, add to that the internet and people getting influenced by European books and, manga from Japan and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest, our generation just doesn't want to let go of stuff we grew up with.
Right.
That's probably the first generation that's done that.
Yeah, we brought back vinyl, we brought back comics.
That's right. So, really, we're to blame in some ways for not letting go of our youth. And that's a good thing.
So there was a movement away from comics being just for kids, they're being for adults as well. But now you don't only read comics. You make your own comic as well. And you're kind of moving away from comics being just for adults.
Isn't
now.
that strange, eh?
Yeah.
So I'm about to eat my own words here. Forget everything I said in the last 3 minutes. Well, I'm creating my own comic now. It's called Spacepig Hamadeus, which is not as clever as I sometimes think it is when I'm up at 4 a.m. But it's a book that it's a story I created when I was 10 years old, when I should have been learning my multiplication and division tables. I was scrawling down these little strips. And skip forward to about 4 or 5 years ago, when I took my daughter, Madeline, she's 5 now. I took her to a convention and thought, I'm going to get something. I've got a lot of friends. I've been a colorist for 15 years now, longer than I'd care to admit. Took her to this convention. I thought, I'm going to get a book. All my friends are putting out books. So I'm going to get something for her. And it was all, violence, zombies, and, ridiculously proportioned women. And I don't mind. I'm not putting any of that stuff down. I like it as much as the next guys. But you go to these conventions and you see all the families and the kids and you think, as much as we've moved away from, to more adult areas or, teen-only areas, we've sort of neglected, I think, some of the, when I was a kid, comics were for all ages. That Spider-Woman #1, I could read with my dad.
Right.
And we could both get the same amount of enjoyment out of it.
So you've got Spacepig Hamadeus here.
Correct,
now.
Yes.
That's you've made that. It is a good read for you and your kid.
That's right.
And it is free comic book day. So I know that comic book stores in Winnipeg will be participating. People get more information online, but where are you going to be for comic book day?
Well, I'm going. My buddy Jarrett runs a shop on Notre Dame, 306 Notre Dame. It's Comic Factory 4. It's a great shop. It's not too big. It's not too small. He's not pushy. He's just a fantastic retailer to go to. My book will be there. When I say all ages, it really just means it's not a kid's book. They don't go hunting for crayons, right? Or, lose their rubber ducky. But it's just anyone can enjoy it. The book will be for sale there if you're interested. And, I'm heading down there afterwards to pick up a whole bunch of books.
All right.
If I could just say one thing, though, as fun as Free Comic Book Day sounds, it still is a cost to the industry to print these and for some retailers to bring them in. So by all means, go down, buy a book. Let's keep the brick and mortar stores open. But, not to harp on it, but it wouldn't hurt if someone just bought something too, right?
Well, thank you so much for being my guest this morning, Donovan. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Donovan Yaciuk is the creator of his own comic, Spacepig Hamadeus. Today is Free Comic Book Day. For more information, check out freecomicbookday.com and get out there and support your local comic book store.